Okay, welcome to another of our Mondays. Were you busy doing something, Liz?
I'm sticking stitch markers open. Well, the stitch markers in so that my sweater's getting so big now that like I can't see my one stitch marker that marks the right side. So when I start, so I get to a stitch marker for my raglan increases, and I'm like, wait, am I supposed to do the raglan increases on this row or so anyway.
One of the problems when you're doing a sweater and garter, knitting both rows, if you don't like purl stitches,
it's a great sweater.
You have trouble distinguishing the right from the wrong side.
So I just stuck stitch markers in everywhere. I mean, I should be able to because like this is the beginning of the wrong side row, but
is it really?
Mm.
Oh, this is the episode that starts like we're in the middle of the episode and already discussing, because that never happens.
Never.
Hi. Welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The adventures of Liz and Rebecca are in full swing this morning.
It's full swing. We'll see if Liz has anything left to talk about when it's her turn.
I will.
Okay, because you see all this, I have a lot to talk about.
I only brought in 2 projects, but they were too small. And Rebecca brought in 1 billion projects.
I promise I slept this weekend. I needed some knit and crochet therapy. I did. Anyway, I'm Rebecca. I am the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber. Can't see it behind the mound. In very rainy Brevard, North Carolina. In case anyone's traveling or doesn't live here to begin with, it's rainy outside today.
I'm Liz. I'm a minion at Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown rainy, wet Brevard, North Carolina.
Yeah, and it's a new week. And I already took my sweater off. She didn't. But you need to show it off anyway, right?
I blocked it. I blocked it.
It didn't even hit me when she came in the door this morning. It looks wonderful. Look at that.
You can still see some of the areas where my purl stitches were too big.
Yeah, but if you don't tell people that, it looks like a decorative stitch. It's called, say it with me now, design element. She just looked at me
I was like, wait, what are we calling it?
What is she going to say?
No, it was okay. So blocking my sweaters, I mostly wear and block, like
block with wear.
Block with wear.
That's what she was going.
Yeah, this kind of grew, like a lot when I soaked it.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before on the show. Is that when the fibers are all wet and it's a lot of fibers because it's a whole sweater, it can grow.
Yeah.
And that's when people freak out and go, my sweater is huge. What happened?
Fortunately, I laid my sweater out before I blocked it, and I measured everything because I liked the size that it was.
I think we talked about that on the show too.
We have.
She did it.
I did it.
Living proof.
I laid it out, and I measured how deep I wanted the back to this part. I measured how wide the shoulders were. I measured how wide the bottom, how long the sleeves, how wide the sleeves, from the armpits, and I'm 5 different places on everything. And I blocked it, and I laid it out, and I was like, ooh, it's like 1.5 inches bigger than it's supposed to be in every little spot.
That's happened with my sweaters too.
So fortunately, I learned from listening to Rebecca over and over again.
I learned it by watching you.
So you just kind of mush it back. So I mushed
gently
mushed,
and
even brush it back out and mush a little bit more until I get the right measurements, and then I let it sit for 3 days, 2 days. Yeah, just to make sure.
Because it's double layer thick too. Like that.
And we don't have the air on in the house, so.
Because why would you do that?
Why would we do that? It's like 70 degrees for a high, and
I will say, like, did you try it on the show before?
I did.
Okay. And the drape is so much better now.
Yeah.
Like from what I remember seeing.
The sleeves are a little longer, which
Mhm.
is fine because I wanted them a little longer anyway.
And that can happen. Sometimes blocking means the squishy comes out a little. Like it might, the fabric might feel a little flatter and not as squishy and vibrant, but I think the shape of it is much better now.
And my neckline lays better.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, this is kind of where I picked up I had to pick up
the
stitches,
neckline
but
and cuffs of things, if you don't block, like on mine, because I've chosen for right now not to block it, like
they kind of puckered.
it can pucker and it can bevel a little, kind of go
And
instead of lying.
Even though this is all, it's moss
Mhm.
instead of, but like it lays flatter.
The same thing can happen.
Yeah.
Mine, just because I'm holding it up and I'm going to put it away. This is the sweater that I finished last week and I wore all last week, like every single day. And because it's a super soft wool, like I'll show you, like see all that? It is already pilling, like to high heaven. Places where, like my arms rub the girls and things like that. There's already spots where it's, I was going to say, kind of felting and pilling, and that's okay. That means I'm going to have to glean it or just use a sweater comb on it and trim it up. But I'm not upset by that. So just so you know, nice. It doesn't mean that this is an inferior wool or I did something wrong. It's like if you wear something constantly, it's going to happen, especially if it's soft and it's natural fibers, like natural animal fibers.
Well,
cotton could do it too, but it might not.
We've talked about it. Like if you wear t-shirts over and over again, you can still get pilling in your armpit areas where it rubs jeans. Yeah, like
the thigh rub.
Yep.
I have stories. Anyway, so it happens. Doesn't mean it's inferior material. So Liz, why don't you talk about your other project before I dominate the conversation and we run out of time?
So I have been eyeing this sweater for a little bit and I finally started it, last week during midnight sometime. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm halfway through the raglan increases now.
Yes, it's what she was talking about when we started today.
Yeah, it's called The Shift of Focus by Vera. Oops.
It just moved.
No, stop.
It just zoomed in.
Oh.
I watched it happen. As Vera Valimaki, lots of umlauts looking things over the A's. So that's probably a butchered pronunciation.
It's
a double-breasted, right?
Double-breasted, top-down raglan sweater.
The bottom it goes zoop, zoop, like right here, which is perfect for Liz.
Yeah, it's short rows shaping in the skirt. Like I was reading the pattern, and you start at the middle and you go out one stitch, like every time you do a short row, to where it looks like your stitches do a whole swirly thing in the front.
That's cool. And with the garter, you've got the ridges that should have that instead of the V's coming down. And she said she had a question for me on short rows and is half trying to explain it to me while I was setting all this up and looking for this, which fell under the table. And I couldn't process an answer for her, and I still might not have one later.
Yeah, it's like I want to make it a little bit shorter, and I would have to do the short rows faster. And
we'll see if we can math it, but nothing is set in stone and guaranteed.
No,
I guarantee nothing.
I'm not.
I have advice. I guarantee nothing.
I'm not even to the point of taking my sleeves off yet. Like it's just like a proper raglan sweater, only and there's no purling.
And the shapings for that part won't happen till after she's done with all the up here. So.
Yeah. So
I have time. Oh crap.
No, it's been a fun knit.
Yeah.
So.
And it's in Dawson, which I believe we have online. It's a llama and alpaca blend in a light chunky
merino and llama. It's the same as the Rapture. No, it's not llama and alpaca.
Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was thinking about ultra alpaca and how this was different. And one camelid, one sheep for both Ultra Alpaca by Barocco and Dawson and Rapture by Sugarbush. And I just listed 2 camelids. The nerdy fiber people amongst you will recognize that. Everyone else will go,
So I have to mention this like up front. The pattern's not written for Dawson.
I have the same issue with something I'm making. If it could be written for the same weights, I don't know if yours is, but yeah, even if it's written for the same weight category, there's such a range within weight categories. You have to, nothing's set in stone, especially for gauge and sweaters. Continue.
The pattern is written for sport weight on size 6 needles.
I remember we had to math for
She
you.
had to math for me. So, and I said sport weight on size 6 needles. It's an awesome sweater. If you like sport weight on size 6 needles, by all means.
That's not her boathouse.
But that's a little small. A lot small. So I did my gauge swatch on Dawson, which is a chunky,
this is the fun thing.
Aran weight chunky yarn.
Yeah, it's like, it's not chunky, but it's, you know, it's a little heavier than
on size 9 needles. And then I wrote down my...
Then she fed them into the machine.
I fed them into the machine. And the machine spit out, if you make the smallest size, it might work. Like, no
Heavy
guarantees.
Emphasis on might.
No guarantees.
That's the fun.
And I'm okay with a bigger sweater anyway. Like, I kind of like them. I like a lot of positive ease.
That means room.
Yeah.
Positive ease plus, negative ease minus.
Yeah.
So
I figured, even though it's a garter, even if I can't button it across the chest because it's bigger than my chest, I'll just let it hang.
Just wrap it like this.
Yeah. Throw in extra snaps.
I'd rather have it be too big than
I'd rather have it be too big than too small. Yeah. And so,
yeah.
And winter, I want a proper happy winter sweater. Like, I don't want a sport weight sweater that I'm going to go, so this was fun, I need a winter coat. My winter coats are either shawls or great big thick sweaters.
The more lightweight sweaters, some people will wear them and some people won't. Yeah. And like, there's in between temperatures where some people will wear stuff, extra layers, and some people will just go with or without. So I made the mistake when I was a teacher, I would knit all these funky winter sweaters. And then I was teaching in buildings with old heating systems that were always overheated. Once the heat was turned on, you were always hot. And so I would never wear them because all of my teaching was self-contained in one building. So I was always too hot because I tend to overheat when I teach and I strip layers off, you know. So
I'm just surprised that I'm wearing a sweater today. And
I know, like, it's crazy.
This
is crazy talk as my sweater falls.
Our high today was when we came into the shop. It's supposed to not warm up.
I will be wearing that home.
She'll probably put it on about 11 o'clock.
I so want to give you fingers right now, but this is a respectable.
We'll be sinking into the 50s by 1 o'clock.
If anyone wants to see fingers, maybe come to Knit Night and maybe they'll verge in from the borders of the screen.
Dance across the
bottom
of the screen.
I have fun making them dance. Okay. So transitioning here. No, but that's always something I tell people is test your gauge for something like a sweater. Test your gauge. And if it doesn't match, do your best to change your tool. I always tell people what you have control over is not how you hold tension, because that will fade away over the course of a sweater. You will settle back into your regular tension. What you have, I'm a broken record on it. What you have control over is the dimension of your tool, your knitting needle, your crochet hook. Make it bigger or smaller depending on how you're off. If you have too many stitches in your little, what you're measuring, that means they're too small. You need fewer stitches to fill the space. You need a bigger tool. If you don't have enough stitches, that means your stitches are too big. They're occupying too much space. You need a smaller dimension tool to shrink them. Something just slid over there, which is always weird because nobody's here, you know. So you need a smaller tool. Segue to my most recent project of the pile I have here, because I always tell people, if you like the way that your fabric, you know, what you make by knitting or crocheting, if you like the way your fabric feels, then you may not want to change needle sizes again, even if your gauge is wrong. And like Liz's gauge is not what the pattern says. There are some ways to modify that. Like we're doing the magic of, I took her stitches per inch, and I took basically the torso, like what torso do we want?
Mm-hmm.
How many stitches per inch do you have? How many stitches do you need to achieve that torso size? Which thing in the pattern has the closest to that number of stitches? Which, you know, some of you may have followed and some of you may have not. And I'm getting distracted by, I want to adjust the camera again. Anyway, I'm gonna let it go.
I let her do all that magic. Like, I'm kind of tuning it out because I really don't care.
But I also so I could totally do that for anyone who comes up to the shop saying, I need to recalculate this pattern because here's my gauge and here's what it wants.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to change my needle size. I could do that. Sometimes it won't work. The added, so it's like she's making the smallest size. She's following the instructions for the smallest size. Now here's the kicker though, is she may not want to follow all of the instructions for the smallest size. Anything that goes this way, stitches, increases, decreases, stitches, stitch count this way, follow the instructions for the smallest size. When it comes to length, the smallest size length, it'll say knit for 8 inches. That's for the small size, like on the right gauge. So you may want to go for what the original size you wanted to make. Say that was like the large. The large will say go for 10 inches. So she's got to kind of, if she chooses to, I mean, again,
with all my sweaters, I have to. There is a difference though. I don't have to knit for so many inches because the back of the bottom half of bottom 3/4 of the sweater is short rows. You knit from side to side and go up one stitch every time.
Okay.
To where you get a swoop in the back.
If you want a bigger swoop, it could be you just do more of those.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about that later. But you know, if there's something that relies on both stitches this way and that way, and they're both off,
I know
we
I'm
have a bigger conversation
with my sleeves.
But so there's 2 different sets of directions to pay attention to. If that is too much for the brain to handle, don't do it. So this is, I want to say, the second sweater
that you started this weekend?
No, she's trying to finish my sentences, and we can't always do that right.
It is the second sweater you finished.
That's not where my sentence was going, though. I want to say. Go wait.
I'll go back to knitting.
I want to say it's the second sweater where I've had to modify and do a different needle, like my gauge is different than the pattern, and I have to follow instructions for a different size. I can't remember the other one I was doing though, so we're just going to talk about this one.
It was in cotton?
Yeah, no, well the soldatna I had to go with a very different needle. Like, again, if you use a different yarn than the pattern's written for, just because it says it's bulky or worsted or whatever doesn't mean it's going to work as well, or doesn't mean you can use the same size needle, because there's a range. The soldatna cotton was I used Sammy cotton, which is so different than the, I'm going for merino that Caitlin Hunter used. I had to go way up on the needle size to get the right gauge, but it still came out looking beautiful. This one, there's 2 things that were going on. So I'm using the Mirasol Sisa, which looks like it's a really thin yarn, but it's this chainette that fluffs up. So they're calling it a bulky. They're actually calling this, which someone might look at on the shelf and go, that's worsted weight. Because a chainette, you don't want to compress it by knitting it too tight, because it's like a down coat. It will keep air trapped inside of it. So I was like, oh, it'll work for this pattern. It's called the planter pullover. It's based on designs on different planters in the pattern, Annie Lipton, the pattern writer's apartment, I think, or house. And so it's the planter pullover. It's got really cool fair isle in it. And I was like, ooh, the Sisa, like, it's not usually on display. Let's make, and so Liz and I picked a whole fall palette. It's a 2-color fair isle, like, not really fair isle, stranded color. Fair isle, I have learned, a lot of purists will say stranded color work applies to all of the using two colors and changing them and holding them both as you go. So the strands go behind each other on the same row, stranded color work, any patterning like that. I used to call all of it fair out, which really, again, most purists will say only applies to a subset of stranded color work, where like that hat up there that you can kind of see in the top of the screen. I'm trying to make my finger point at it. Yeah, there. Something that is this regular repeating pattern that has a very classic look to it would be called fair isle, because I think where that developed, there were certain patterns that came out of that area. And so things that are a little more abstract, this sweater has some sections that are a little more abstract, you'll see as it goes, would just be called stranded color work. And so I set to do my gauge swatch. And the gauge swatch was for stockinette, not color work. It recommends you go up a needle size when you're doing the color work. And it's on a size 10 needle. I did a gauge on my size 10 needle, and I got like 18 stitches for 4 inches. I'm supposed to have 12 to meet gauge. And I was like, oh boy. I think even if I jump 2 needle sizes, 10.5 to the 11, I know there's other needles in there that she loves, but in the most of the knitting world, 10.5, 11. I know if I jump to an 11, it probably still won't work. So I went to the 11, and it's got a really nice feel to it. But yeah, my gauge was still not right. My gauge was 14 stitches instead of 12. So only off by 2 stitches over the course of 4 inches.
But that'll change your size over the course
over the course of like 50 inches, which is what I'm shooting for to have some positive ease in the girls here. That's going to be, it needs 2 to 6 inches of positive ease. That's going to be kind of huge. That's going to cause problems. And because it's actually going to cause problems in the wrong way, because it's 14 instead of 12, my stitches needed to be bigger to hit the 12. The next needle up is a 13, which is really huge. And one of the things with Fair Isle is, if I show this off, isn't that pretty?
If you'd gone up, you'd
see the strands through it, and the stitches would start to get floppy and not feel nice. And so if I went with the size I wanted to make, it would be way too small. So I fit the measurements in the pattern for a size 5. But I'm following the instructions. Instead of saying, I can't do this pattern and chucking it out the window, I'm attempting. I am making size 7. I'm following the instructions for the size 7. And if there's length requirements, I'm going to go back to following the instructions for the size 5, because I'm not super tall. I'm not proportionally a size 7. So, but no, I'm having a lot of fun with this. This is like,
it looks so cool.
I started it yesterday morning, maybe the night before that. So it was, I put the collar on my morning meditations yesterday, and I put the color work on my morning meditations for today, because I'm having fun. There's something about doing color work, like having some interest to the pattern, that even though it's more complicated, I bust it out faster because it's keeping me entertained.
Yeah.
There's like, ooh, something new. Ooh, something new. Ooh, so, so again, this had short rows. That was my morning meditation 2 days ago. I already feel this stretching. Like this could still be huge. We'll see. Everything's an experiment. The beginning of the row is the middle of the back. So this is the front. And I'm taking what was 2 color work. This is, I was thinking about, ooh, wouldn't it be fun to have lots of different colors in it? And Liz went, ooh, and she helped me pick out a fun, like, we've got teal for the stripe, for the horizontal stripes. And then every time between the horizontal stripes, I'm going to change colors. I'm on the yellow. I've done the green. I also have orange and red.
She picked out all the fall colors, and I'm like,
let's just use them all.
Throw in a bright pop just to,
So I'm nostipinning all my yarn because I don't know, it's therapy for me right now. And I think it took me longer to nostipin this than it did. I was through knitting with it, and much less time than it took to nostipin. Oh wait, that's in milliliters. I want to see how much of this 50-gram skein I actually used. I'm trying to find grams on it. Hang on. Grams. Huh! I used 4 grams of yarn for that.
The green row.
For those green triangles. 4 grams of yarn. That's it. If we like this and it's fun, we may make kits, although there is that disclaimer of I don't know if you're going to hit gauge. And here's the other thing is the instructions said go up a needle size for the color work because your floats can pull tight. A 13 is so much bigger than an 11. There's very little in between, if anything. So I'm just using an 11.
They go up whole millimeter sizes past 11, right? Like
or more.
Yeah.
Or more. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I know a 13's a 9 millimeter, and 11's an 8.
I forgot where I put my little gauge. Anyway,
11's an 8 because.
Okay, so that one only does 1 whole millimeter, but that can get pretty big at that point. I want to say a 15 to a 17 to a 19 starts really jumping. Anyway, so this is one of my projects, which since it's chunky, I think I'm gonna bust it out, which is great. And then I finished a project. I can't put this on with the ponytails, with the pigtails, but this is one skein of Tierra del Fuego. It will make an appearance maybe tomorrow again. Ta-da!
It's a cute little beanie with a giant pom-pom.
Yes, I love it. You don't have to make one that big, but I really was having fun with go big or go home.
She wanted to use all of one skein of yarn, so.
And the pattern had this giant pom-pom, and I used my hand. I could have made it a little smaller and more reasonable by using one of the pom-pom makers, like the large, not the extra large. Anyway, so this is the Frida hat. It is super cute and super easy. It's just made with knits and pearls and slip stitches. And you know, hot pink. Someone's gonna love hot pink. My niece will probably love hot pink. So if this doesn't survive the holiday season, I could have done more repeats. My gauge was pretty much on, but this is a fairly snug hat. I could have done a little more height to it before finishing it and then just had less for the pom-pom. I still would have had plenty of yarn. This was like almost half the ball of yarn right there. So, woo. Like I said, this may make an appearance tomorrow. What else? I have.
She has a whole pile of stuff.
Well, I kept starting things for the morning meditation and then starting something else for the next morning meditation. Why not? Knitting therapy. And I own a yarn shop, so.
My projects were too small.
What are you doing? What?
I'm getting a measuring.
Oh, okay.
Piece.
All right, so this was super fun too. I think I'm gonna flash this, one of the things last week. I haven't made any progress on it, but it's gonna be awesome. It's a ball of Noro Ito, and I just love these colors, and they show up way too dark on screen. But this is the Pilgrim braid scarf. And it looks like it's like entrelac or something super complicated, and it so is not. It is really, really cool. Okay, over here. There's a knit front and back involved at the beginning of every row over here. Or, you know, when you turn it around, maybe it's the other side. And there's a slip knit over here. And at a certain point, and you turn around, go back, short rows. But no wraps and turns or anything like that. And when you get 2/3 of the way across, you actually end up going all the way across and coming back. And I don't feel like I'm giving away too much of the pattern there because it is a free pattern, but you should go support her by going to her website. We can put the link.
It's really cool because every time I look at it, I'm like, she must have picked up stitches. And Rebecca's like, no.
Nope.
And
it's super simple. If anyone has done entrelac or tried it and been like, this is crazy. It's not crazy, but it requires picking up stitches and doing some work. This is a great thing instead. And like, I got to hold it like that so you can see what it will look like. I will get back to it at some point. I've just been distracted by too many projects. This is a project. I still have all this stuff hanging off of it. This was a weekend project. I Nasta pinned the gymongous balls of yarn for this weekend and did it. I wanted to play around with Tunisian crochet. So I got Yana, which again, we might talk more about tomorrow. I don't know. We're still planning tomorrow. We're going to start having fun with the VSCs. More on that if there's time today, or more likely tomorrow. I gave people a heads up in my newsletter. But we haven't decided what we're doing tomorrow. I'm hinting at all these possibilities, and we'll decide tomorrow morning.
As we always
as we do. Yana is what you call it, roving gangs of sheep that went to school on scholarship.
Yeah, they went. Okay, so you have roving gangs of sheep, and you have merino, because merino is so soft. Merino went to private school.
Roving gangs of sheep. This is wool.
Yeah.
Just
and the Yana
wool.
is roving gangs of sheep that went to private school on scholarship.
Because this
is so soft.
It's not merino, but oh my gosh, it's so soft. It's super fine wool. And we have Yana, which is solid, the black, and we have Yana Journeys, which is multicolored. More about that potentially sometime in the future. And Tunisian crochet has all these fun stitches where you can use just the front leg, picking up stitches as you go over and looping through on your way back. This is front leg with going over with one color and back with the other, and over with the other and back with the first color. And you can make, let's see, this is the goblin stitch, which is what I'm doing with my Frankenstein's cotillion, which is going between the stitches. It gives it a really cool look. This is like my sampler, right? I'm trying to show you stuff on, let's see, yes, on the journeys because it's easier to see on camera. If you go through the middle of the stitch, it will look like knitting right there. But it's thicker than knitting. It also kind of looks like knitting on the back, but this is probably thicker than if I knit with it. But it's really cool effects. So I was trying to do, here's rows alternating, going through the middle of the stitch with different colors. It's fun. And Liz was like, I was like, it's not going to be as long as I wanted to for a scarf. This is 25 stitches across with an end hook. And Liz said, we'll make it into an infinity scarf. So I crocheted the ends together. I can't go over my pom-pom. And if you like the big drapey, stick it inside your coat and just let it hang down. Sweet. I'm ready for winter.
Almost. She doesn't have her sweater on.
Yeah, my COVID cardigan's at home. So this was fun. I need to sew all the ends in, but wanted to show it off. And then the pièce de résistance, which I was going to go until I ran out of mohair. And then I started another
But mohair never ends.
No, mohair never ends. By the way, our yarnets are perfect receptacles for keeping mohair from flopping around like a just caught fish that flops off the table. Hey. So you see what happened was.
Here's the story. It's sad but true.
You see what happened was, I'm waiting for the green mohair to come in so I can make the calliope in a wonderful olivey green for fall, right? Which is a strand of mohair and a strand of fingering weight, or like our Hearthstone, which is, they're calling it sport weight, but I'm calling it fingering weight. Like that's what I picked out. And I was like, yes, I'm going to make it. And then shout out to Nikki. She bought the mohair out from under me, which is fine. And I had to order more, but but it's back ordered. Continuing on with my story. It's back ordered and I'm still waiting for it to come in. And in my heart, I really wanted to make a sparkly calliope anyway. And the green didn't have sparkle. And Liz went, well, why don't you do the black? Because I started looking at the other combos we'd put online. I'm like, well, I could do the wine. Ooh. I could do the wine burgundy one. I could do the navy one. Ooh. And she said, why don't you do black? And I went,
because she has plans for a navy sweater. And
do I? Oh yeah, I kind of
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, why don't you do the black sparkle? And she went, but what am I going to pair it with? And I'm like, well, electrolyte has sparkle in it.
As funny. A joke. Electrolyte is from Plymouth. It's a merino. It's like a sock weight, basically, yep. With a thread of sparkle in it. And I was like, oh, that'd be way too much.
And
no.
I walked out of the shop for a 3 to 5. And when I came back in, I got, so you see what had happened was she matched every black.
Because all blacks are not the same black. It's not that they're not equal. No. They're all different shades of black. And those of you who've knit with black know what I mean. Or tried to wear 2 black pieces of any type of fashion together that weren't bought at the same time.
And the electrolyte was
They
The
were all
exact
like
match.
too brown, black, or whatever, and the electrolyte went the best. And I was like, oh God, this is going to be way too sparkly. And then Liz made the perhaps making it better argument of, but it'll be classy. It'll be blingy, like formal wear. Like I ever wear anything formally anywhere anymore. But now I might have one. So, because I started it and I got carried away with it, and I was gonna go till I'm out of mohair. But look, I still have a little of mohair left. I did my gauge swatch. I did 2 or 3 gauge swatches because this one might be the same thing too. But I think it was close enough that I'm not going to stress about it, because the calliope is meant to have a huge amount of positive ease, and I may not be going that far with it anyway. I did a gauge swatch with a 7. Now remember, 2 really itty bitty yarns on a 7, which is almost middle of the road, like needle. And it was close. It was off a little bit. So I did a gauge swatch on an 8, and it was way too big. So I'm like, okay, we'll use the 7. We'll use what it's written for.
You can't see the sparkle.
You can't see the sparkle. Oh my gosh.
But it has the
sparkle.
metal sparkle in the
I can't pull that up too much farther. I'll take it off the needles.
In the mohair. And then it has the really subtle sparkle in the electrolyte. And it is, I'm not one for blingy yarn.
Oh, but look, and that's blingy. That
but
actually
it looks really,
might
really
be
good.
a blingy thing of mohair that is sticking out too much. And I'm gonna suck that in. But see that? Can you see that?
Yeah.
There's a little spot like, what? That's too much. So that's the hazard of holding a mohair with a regular, is sometimes the mohair will just be like, and sometimes you'll only catch one of the yarns. I had that late at night. I went, is that a hole? Did I drop a stitch? No, it was a stitch that only the mohair had caught and not the fingering weight. And that was a little wonky. Not to dissuade anyone from doing this, because oh my gosh, it's wonderful. If anyone wants a black, this is not part of our kits, but we can make it part of our kits because it's so pretty. And the mohair with the sparkle in it, when you feel it, it's like, okay, that sparkle's a little rougher than just mohair by itself. But when you knit it, oh my gosh, this is so wonderfully soft. I'm gonna be so excited. Like, I'm so excited to do all of this. And I still haven't finished the swatching for my Jupiter crop.
One of these days, she'll get back to the Jupiter crop.
One Fair Isle stranded colorwork project at a time. That's my motto, and I'm sticking to it for the moment. So, and I have to go back to these ones that are a little more mindless and make some progress on those. And like, there's easy and more complicated in all of this. I think everyone watching can find one of these projects and engage in it and have fun with it. So, and I have like 5 or 6 projects in my bag I need to get back to. I had such plans on Saturday of rotating through all my projects. I started this one.
We have knit night tonight. So
yeah,
pick your mindless project, because by the time we get to knit night, it could be a brain dead night.
Yeah, I'm going to need something that, well, honestly, I might work on this, although the lighting won't be very good, because this one.
That one you almost need a spotlight.
Well, I had someone, I think it was Jan from the UK, who was like, oh, you must have good eyesight. And I'm like, not really. It's more doing stuff by feel, like that one stitch that I didn't catch both of and saw later and went, oh crap. It's more doing knitting by feel than anything. Holding these two together. And look, this mohair is, I got to straighten that out.
Mohair is the devil's yarn.
Yeah, after
I'm addicted to it. But
couple things I had to fix by dropping some stitches down and fixing them, I kind of agree right now. But I'm still loving this project. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Woo. So, okay. I think I talked about everything on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4. I really only 4? Huh. But if I look at my
when
bag,
you bring
5,
a billion
6,
projects to work, it's
7,
easy to lose track
8,
of them.
9. I probably have at least 9 to 10 projects here at the shop. I left my Jupiter crop at home. I realized I wasn't going to work on it, the Swatch, and no one was going to ask to see that. But all the others, who knows if someone wants to see it?
She literally schleps a billion projects back and forth every day.
But in our shop project bags with the vinyl and the zipper, splish. Oh my gosh, I got so much in these 2 bags and zipped them up and carried everything on my shoulder this morning. I had fun.
I whittled my projects down to 2, which 1, and the project I should be working on.
We'll see. Usually it's rainy today. We may not have customers or not that many. Usually on those days, it's an organize the shop day. Maybe figure out if we want to put something up in that hole.
2
Maybe
holes. And actually, yeah.
I count that as 1 hole because it's within the same distance of itself.
No, it's theoretically 2 holes on the pretty well does weird things with holes. They could be all together and it would still count as 2 holes because it was 2
It's her
different
wall. I'll take her counting for it. It's fine. Okay, so we need to wrap up because it's almost 10, and even if the Vikings don't come out in the rain because they're afraid of melting, the zombie Vikings, as I was saying to Brian this morning, we still need to be ready for them. So we're probably going to sign off. Wrap up things. Stay tuned to the VSC tomorrow because we have fun promotions we're going to start tomorrow. And which will be online and in the shop, by the way. In the past, we've only done promotions online. Yep. We're going to do them both places. And then Thursday is Dear Becky and Lizzy. We already have 1 email that's come in. If you want to fire off, which we'll answer to the best of our ability. This is starting to slide off my head because I'm waggling that pom-pom around.
Staples.
What?
Safety pins.
She wants me to staple this to my head or safety pin it to my head, whatever. Anyway, I was like, the store? What? So, Dear Beck, if you want to fire off a real letter to us, which is always fun to get because we can stash them right up there. It's Dear Becky and Lizzy, Sun Dragon Art and Fiber, 35 South Broad Street, Brevard, North Carolina, 28712. I'm getting better at that because I'm not always just saying the phone number.
Yeah.
Phone number is our Zoom code for meetings. 828-877-3550 is the code to get into tonight's sit and stitch.
Yeah.
And Friday sit and stitch. And the Saturday afternoon sit and stitch, if you want to do it on Zoom, that will be on October 24th. We got some time before that. We're resting up for that. Yeah, send us your questions. We'll answer them if we can.
And if you have a pressing question, and
email
at liz@sundragonartandfiber.com.
Every time you're like, @Liz, and I'm like, too many ats.
Too many ats, but liz@sundragonartandfiber.com.
I'm just really particular.
I know. I just keep, all
Look how long my hair has got. Holy crap. Okay, that's neither here nor there. And all irregular because I love my hairdresser, Brett, but I'm not going to the hairstylist. I'm sorry. I've
just taken to trimming mine. Like,
I haven't even trimmed. I'm just a hot mess.
I kind of flip it over and then sometimes I take too much, and now I have bangs that are weird. I don't know. Well, not like proper bangs. They're still down to here.
All right.
But,
we digress.
Always.
Always. Okay. So, yes, many fun things this week. And that's probably a good place to I'm just sitting here surrounded by the glory of all that I'm knitting, and I can't decide. I had a moment. Was it Saturday? I don't even know. When I was just like, I don't know what to work on. There's so many options. I was like stalled out. So if that's the case, come get a new project from us.
And that's what she did.
This is what's helping me with stress in life. Yes. And there was another project I brought home that I haven't started because I only brought home half of the yarn. So by next Tuesday, I'll probably have other stuff here, but maybe.
You're channeling your inner me.
I'll finish something.
With all the projects you have on needles now.
I finished this. Look. I finished something this week.
Hats don't count. They're so fast. Especially hats on 15 needles.
This is instant gratification, people. Like bigger needles, bigger yarn, small project.
Oh, And we're less than 3 months away from Thanksgiving? October, November.
You mean
December.
Christmas?
Christmas. That thing.
That holiday with the gifts.
That thing. Somebody at midnight reminded us that.
I want to think about that. But if you need to get an early jump on your Christmas or any holiday gift giving, start now. Because
And
I start after Thanksgiving and it's a hot mess.
certain people who shall remain nameless that start after Thanksgiving might not be traveling this year for Christmas. So they have to actually find out when the last mailing date before Christmas is to put stuff in the mail, which means a whole, 2 weeks less time since mail.
I think everyone's getting super bulky hats this year. I said this, I know we should be going. I said this to my family on our weekly Zoom call, and they went, oh, but Christmas can be any time, as in like, send it to us. And I'm like, that's a load of hooey. Because usually I drive there and Christmas Eve night, I am still finishing projects. Can't do that this year. Okay, we've digressed again. Bye. I'm gonna end this call.
Like us, share us, ring the bell thingy for alerts.
Yes, subscribe. 410.
Ooh, yay.
Oh, I don't know if we hit it yet, but we're hoping to.
We're really close.
Bye.